The dust kicked up around Dahlia Vaughn's worn boots as she stumbled into Murphy's, California, clutching her side where blood seeped through her fingers, staining the faded calico dress that had once been her mother's. It was June of 1872, and the gold rush town had settled into a quieter existence than its frenzied past, but it still drew all manner of people seeking fortune or escape. Dahlia was seeking neither. She was running from something far worse than poverty, running from men who wanted her dead for witnessing a murder she could never unsee. The sun bore down mercilessly as she made her way down the main street, past the general store and the saloon, leaving a trail of crimson drops in the dirt behind her. Her vision blurred at the edges, and she knew she would not make it much farther. The stagecoach robbery 3 days ago had left her injured and stranded when those outlaws killed the driver and the other passengers. She had played dead among the bodies until they rode off, then walked through the wilderness with nothing but the clothes on her back and a desperate will to survive. A strong hand caught her elbow just as her knees buckled. "Easy there, miss." Dahlia looked up into the face of a man, with weathered features and eyes the color of a summer sky. He had dark hair that curled slightly at the collar of his shirt, and despite the concern etched across his face, there was a gentleness there that made something in her chest tighten with unexpected relief. "I need a doctor," she whispered, her voice hoarse from days without water. "Doc Henderson's place is just up the road. Can you walk?" The man's voice was deep and steady, an anchor in the chaos of her fading consciousness. She tried to nod, but her legs gave out entirely. Without hesitation, the stranger swept her up into his arms as though she weighed nothing at all. Through the haze of pain, Dahlia noticed how carefully he held her, mindful of her injury. "What is your name?" she managed to ask as he carried her swiftly down the wooden sidewalk. "Warren Zimmerman," he replied, not breaking his stride. "And you need to save your strength, miss." The doctor's office smelled of carbolic acid and dried herbs. Warren kicked the door open with his boot, calling out for Doc Henderson. An older man with spectacles and thinning gray hair emerged from a back room, took one look at Dahlia, and immediately cleared the examination table. "Set her down here, Warren. What happened?" "Found her on the street. She is bleeding bad, Doc." Dahlia felt Warren's arms release her gently onto the table. She wanted to thank him, to tell him not to leave, but the words would not come. Darkness crept in at the edges of her vision. "Miss, I need you to stay awake," Doc Henderson said firmly, cutting away the blood-soaked fabric of her dress. "Warren, get me hot water and clean cloths from that cabinet." She heard Warren moving quickly, efficiently. The doctor's hands were steady as he examined the wound. "Bullet grazed her ribs. Nasty, but she will live if infection does not set in. This is at least 2, maybe 3 days old. Where have you been, girl?" "Walking," Dahlia whispered. "They killed everyone else." Doc Henderson's expression darkened. "Who did?" "The Murphy gang, stage robbery." Her teeth chattered despite the heat. "I saw their faces. I saw everything." Warren appeared at her side with the supplies, and she noticed his jaw tighten at her words. The Murphy gang was notorious throughout the Sierra Nevada foothills, led by a vicious man named Cole Murphy, who had no relation to the town, despite the coincidence of names. They had been terrorizing stage coaches and mining operations for months. "You are the witness everyone has been looking for," Warren said quietly. "The sheriff has been trying to track them down." Doc Henderson cleaned the wound with practiced efficiency while Dahlia bit down on a leather strap to keep from screaming. Warren stood by, his presence somehow comforting even though she had just met him. When the doctor finally finished stitching and bandaging her side, Dahlia was drenched in sweat and shaking. "She needs rest, plenty of fluids and someone to watch over her for the next few days," Doc Henderson announced, washing his hands in a basin. "Where are you staying, miss?" Dahlia closed her eyes. "Nowhere, I have nothing." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. She had no money, no belongings, no family. Her parents had died of fever the previous winter, and she had been traveling to San Francisco to stay with an aunt when the stage was attacked. "She can stay at my place," Warren said suddenly. Both Dahlia and the doctor looked at him in surprise. "Warren, that would not be proper," Doc Henderson said with a frown. "I've got the spare room at the back of the stable. It is clean and private. Mrs. Chen at the boarding house is full up, and it is not safe for her to be alone anyway. If the Murphy gang finds out she survived, they will come looking for her." The doctor stroked his chin thoughtfully. "He has got a point, and Warren is one of the most honorable men in this town. But still, folks will talk." "Let them talk," Warren said firmly. "The girl needs help, and I have got the means to provide it. That is all that matters." Dahlia wanted to protest, to insist she could manage on her own, but she had no strength left for pride. "I cannot pay you," she said weakly, meeting Warren's eyes. "I have nothing to give you in return." Warren's expression softened, and he pulled up a chair beside the examination table. "You do not need to pay me back. Just let me help you. Let me make sure you are safe." There was something in his voice, a loneliness that echoed her own. Dahlia studied his face and saw a man who had known his own share of hardship. His hands were calloused from hard work, his clothes were clean but patched in places, and there was a sadness in his eyes that spoke of loss. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" she asked. Warren was quiet for a moment, as if considering his answer carefully. "Because not too long ago, I was in a similar situation. Someone helped me when they did not have to, and I have been trying to pay that kindness forward ever since." Doc Henderson cleared his throat. "Well, if that is settled, let me get her something for the pain. Warren, bring your wagon around back. She should not be walking just yet." Over the next hour, arrangements were made. Warren drove his wagon to the rear entrance while the doctor gave Dahlia laudanum for the pain and strict instructions for her care. By the time Warren lifted her into the back of the wagon, cushioned with blankets, the medicine had taken effect, and the world had taken on a dreamlike quality. The ride to Warren's property was mercifully short. He lived on the edge of town where he ran a stable and farrier service. The main barn was a sturdy structure, and behind it sat a small cabin where he clearly lived. True to his word, there was a separate room attached to the stable, likely meant for hired hands. Warren carried her inside and laid her on a narrow bed with surprising care. The room was simple but clean, with a small window, a washstand, and a trunk in the corner. "I will bring you some water and something to eat," he said, adjusting the blanket around her. "You need to rest now." "Warren," Dahlia called as he turned to leave. He paused in the doorway. "Thank you, truly," he nodded, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "Get some sleep." The days that followed blurred together in a haze of pain and healing. Warren proved to be an attentive caretaker, bringing her meals 3 times a day and checking her bandages as Doc Henderson had instructed. He was quiet by nature, but not unkind. In fact, Dahlia found his presence soothing after the trauma she had endured. On the 3rd day, she was strong enough to sit up and take notice of her surroundings. Through the window, she could see Warren working in the stable yard, shoeing a magnificent chestnut horse. He moved with practiced ease, speaking softly to the animal as he worked. There was a gentleness to him that seemed at odds with his rough appearance. That evening, when he brought her dinner, Dahlia was determined to learn more about the man who had saved her life. "How long have you lived in Murphy's?" she asked as he set the tray on her lap. It held a bowl of beef stew that smelled heavenly. "About 3 years now," Warren replied, lingering by the door. I came out from Missouri after the war. You fought. The question was unnecessary. Many men his age carried that weight. For the Union, yes. His voice grew distant. Lost most of my family during those years. My parents to sickness, my brother at Shiloh. When it was over, there was nothing left to go back to. Dahlia's heart ached for him. I am sorry. That must have been terrible. Warren shrugged, but she could see the pain in his eyes. We all lost something in those years. What about you? Where is your family? She told him then about her parents, about the aunt in San Francisco she had never met, about her plans that had been so violently derailed. As she spoke, Warren pulled up a chair and listened with an intensity that made her feel truly heard for the first time in a long while. I do not even know if my aunt is still alive, Dahlia admitted. The letter I received was nearly a year old. I could be completely alone in this world now. You are not alone, Warren said quietly. Not anymore. Their eyes met, and Dahlia felt something shift between them, a connection forming that went beyond gratitude. She looked away first, suddenly aware of how improper this situation was. Here she was, a young woman of 21, staying in the home of an unmarried man she barely knew. Warren could not have been more than 28 or 29, still young himself, and yet there was an old soul quality about him. I need to find a way to support myself, she said, changing the subject. I cannot impose on your hospitality forever. You are not imposing. But if you are set on working, there are options once you are healed. Mrs. Patterson, who runs the dress shop, is always looking for help, and the school teacher mentioned needing an assistant. I can sew well enough, and I have had some education. My mother was a teacher before she married. Dahlia felt a flicker of hope. Do you think either would hire me despite my circumstances? This is Murphy's, not San Francisco. People here are more concerned with what you can do than where you came from. Warren stood, preparing to leave. But that is a worry for next week. Right now, your job is to heal. By the end of the first week, Dahlia was able to walk around the room without help. By the end of the second, she insisted on taking her meals in Warren's cabin rather than having him wait on her. He had protested at first, concerned about her strength, but she was stubborn. The first time she sat at his small table, Dahlia was struck by how sparse his living quarters were. There were no personal touches, no photographs or mementos. It was as if Warren had deliberately stripped his life of anything that might remind him of the past. You keep a tidy home, she observed, accepting the plate he offered. Not much point in accumulating things when there is no one to share them with. The words were matter of fact, but Dahlia heard the loneliness beneath them. You have never married, Warren shook his head. Came close once before the war, but she married someone else while I was gone. Cannot say I blame her. Times were uncertain. That must have hurt terribly. It did for a while, but pain fades if you let it. He sat across from her, and Dahlia noticed how carefully he maintained distance, always proper, always respectful. What about you? Anyone waiting for you somewhere? No. There was a boy back home who used to call on me, but nothing serious. My father wanted me to finish my education before courting anyone seriously. She smiled sadly. He was protective that way. They ate in companionable silence for a while before Dahlia spoke again. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you live out here alone? You are kind and capable. Surely there are women in town who would be interested in courting. Warren's laugh was bitter. I am a farrier who lives in a stable, Dahlia. Not exactly what most women are looking for. I think you underestimate yourself. She met his eyes steadily. You have been nothing but honorable and generous. Those qualities matter more than wealth. Something flickered across Warren's face, an emotion too quick to name. You are easy to be generous to, he said softly. The moment stretched between them, charged with something unspoken. Dahlia felt heat rise to her cheeks and looked down at her plate. The next day, Sheriff Tom Benson came calling. He was a stocky man with a thick mustache and a no-nonsense demeanor. Warren brought him to the stable room where Dahlia was mending one of Warren's shirts, something she had insisted on doing to feel useful. "Miss Vaughn, I am glad to see you are recovering," the sheriff said, removing his hat. "I hate to trouble you, but I need to know everything you can remember about the stage robbery." Dahlia set aside her sewing, her hands trembling slightly. She had known this moment would come. "What do you need to know? Start from the beginning. How many men were there? What did they look like?" She closed her eyes, pulling up memories she would rather forget. There were 5 of them. They wore masks at first, but after they killed the driver, they took them off. I suppose they did not think there would be any witnesses left alive. Warren, standing by the window, tensed visibly. "Can you describe them?" Sheriff Benson asked, pulling out a small notebook. The leader was tall, over 6 feet, with a scar running down his left cheek. Dark hair, dark eyes, maybe 40 years old. He wore a leather vest with silver buttons. She could see him in her mind's eye, standing over the bodies with his smoking gun. He called one of the others Ike. That man was shorter, stocky, with red hair and freckles. Could not have been more than 25. "That fits with what we know of Cole Murphy and Ike Fletcher," the sheriff confirmed. "What about the others?" Dahlia continued, describing each man as best she could remember. The sheriff took careful notes, asking occasional questions. When she finished, she felt drained, as if reliving the experience had taken all her strength. "You have been very helpful, Miss Vaughn. These descriptions will aid us greatly." Sheriff Benson stood to leave. "But I must warn you, if word gets out that you survived, these men may come looking for you. They have killed witnesses before." "She is safe here," Warren said firmly. "I will make sure of it." The sheriff studied Warren for a moment, then nodded. "I know you will. But keep your eyes open, both of you. The Murphy gang is not to be trifled with." After the sheriff left, Warren paced the small room like a caged animal. "I do not like this," he said finally. "You are in danger because you did the right thing. What choice did I have? Those men murdered innocent people. They need to face justice." Dahlia stood, wincing slightly at the pull on her healing wound. "I refuse to live in fear. There is a difference between being brave and being foolish." Warren stopped pacing and looked at her with genuine concern. "Promise me you will not go anywhere alone, not until the sheriff catches them. I promise." She touched his arm gently. "But you cannot guard me every moment. You have a business to run. I can try." His hand covered hers briefly, the contact sending an unexpected warmth through her. "I will not let anything happen to you, Dahlia." The way he said her name, with such quiet intensity, made her heart skip. She realized in that moment that her feelings for Warren had grown beyond gratitude into something deeper, something that both thrilled and terrified her. 3 weeks after arriving in Murphy's, Dahlia was well enough to venture into town. Warren accompanied her to meet Mrs. Patterson at the dress shop. The older woman was a practical sort with kind eyes and capable hands. "So you are the girl Warren has been caring for, Mrs. Patterson said, looking Dahlia over appraisingly. "He said you could sew." "Yes, madam. My mother taught me from a young age." Dahlia tried to keep her voice steady, aware that this might be her chance at independence. "Show me your hands." Dahlia held them out, and Mrs. Patterson examined them critically. "They are soft now, but I can see old calluses. You have done needlework before." She went to a basket overflowing with fabric scraps. "Make me something from this. I will be in the back sorting inventory. You have an hour." After Mrs. Patterson left, Dahlia stood staring at the basket, feeling Warren's encouraging presence beside her. "You can do this." he said quietly. She selected several pieces of fabric in complementary colors and set to work creating a small decorative pillow. Her fingers remembered the skills her mother had taught her, and soon she was lost in the rhythm of needle and thread. Warren watched for a while, then excused himself to run errands, promising to return before the hour was up. When Mrs. Patterson returned, she examined Dahlia's work in silence. The pillow was neatly constructed with even stitches and a pleasing design. "You will do," the woman said finally. "I can pay you $4 a week to start, with room to increase if you prove reliable. You will work Tuesday through Saturday, 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon." "Can you start next Tuesday?" Relief flooded through Dahlia. "Yes, madam. Thank you so much." "Thank Warren. He spoke highly of you and I trust his judgment." Mrs. Patterson's expression softened slightly. "I heard what you went through, girl. Takes courage to survive something like that." "You will do just fine here." When Warren returned, Dahlia was waiting on the boardwalk outside the shop, unable to contain her smile. "I got the position," she announced. Warren's face lit up with genuine pleasure. "That is wonderful news. I knew she would hire you. She said you recommended me." "Thank you for that." Dahlia fell into step beside him as they walked back toward his property. "This means I can start saving money, maybe find a room to rent. I have been imposing on you for too long." Warren's expression clouded. "You have not been imposing, and there is no rush for you to leave. The room is yours as long as you need it." "Warren, I cannot stay there indefinitely. People are already talking. I heard Mrs. Chen whispering to her friend as we passed the boarding house." Dahlia kept her voice low. "I do not want to damage your reputation. I do not care what people say." Warren stopped walking and turned to face her. "Dahlia, you are safe where you are. Please do not feel pressured to leave because of gossip." She looked up at him, at the earnest concern in his eyes, and felt her resolve weaken. "Why do you care so much? You barely know me." Warren was quiet for a long moment, people passing around them on the busy street. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "Because for the first time in years I do not feel alone. Having you there, knowing you are safe, it matters to me, more than it probably should." Dahlia's breath caught. "Warren, I know it is not proper for me to say such things. You are recovering and you are vulnerable, and I should not burden you with my feelings." He looked away, jaw tight. "Forget I said anything." "No." Dahlia reached for his hand, bold in her own right. "Do not take it back. I need to know I am not imagining this thing between us." His fingers closed around hers, strong and warm. "You are not imagining it. I have felt it since the first day, and I have been fighting it because I did not want to take advantage of your situation." "You are not taking advantage." She stepped closer, aware of the eyes on them but not caring. "Warren, you saved my life. You have cared for me and protected me and asked nothing in return. How could I not feel something for you?" "Gratitude is not the same as affection," Warren said carefully. "I know the difference." Dahlia smiled up at him. "And this is not gratitude." Warren's thumb stroked across her knuckles, a gesture so tender it made her eyes sting. "Then what is it?" "I do not know yet, but I would like the chance to find out." She squeezed his hand. "If you will be patient with me." "I have been patient my whole life," Warren said. "I can wait a little longer." They walked back to his property hand in hand, and something fundamental had shifted between them. What had been unspoken was now acknowledged, a fragile beginning to something that could become extraordinary. That evening, as they shared dinner in his cabin, the conversation flowed more easily than before. Warren told her about his work, about the horses he loved and the satisfaction of crafting horseshoes that fit perfectly. Dahlia spoke of her childhood, of her dreams of becoming a teacher like her mother, of the books she loved. "My father used to read to me every night," she said, a wistful note in her voice. Adventure stories, mostly. Tales of far-off places and brave heroes. I think that is why I agreed to go to San Francisco. I wanted my own adventure. You certainly got one, though not the kind you hoped for. Warren refilled her water glass. Will you still go to San Francisco, try to find your aunt? Dahlia considered the question. I do not know. That life seems far away now, and if I am being honest, I am not sure I want it any more. What do you want? She met his eyes across the table. I want to feel safe. I want to build a life on my own terms, and I want to see where this leads. She gestured between them, whatever this is. Warren's smile was slow and genuine. I want that too. The weeks passed, settling into a comfortable routine. Dahlia worked at the dress shop, proving herself skilled and reliable. Mrs. Patterson gradually gave her more responsibility, trusting her to handle customers and even design simple garments. The work was satisfying, and the other women who came to the shop were friendly, if curious about her relationship with Warren. For his part, Warren continued to treat Dahlia with utmost respect. He never pushed for more than she was ready to give, content with shared meals and conversation. But the attraction between them grew stronger with each passing day. The accidental brush of hands, the lingering looks, the way her heart raced when he smiled at her. One Saturday evening in late August, Warren asked if she would accompany him on a ride the next day. There is a place I want to show you, he said, if you feel up to it. I would love that, Dahlia agreed. Sunday dawned clear and warm. Warren saddled 2 horses, a gentle mare for Dahlia and his own sturdy gelding. They rode out of town, following a trail that led up into the foothills. Dahlia had not ridden in years, but Warren was patient, keeping their pace easy. After about an hour, they emerged at a meadow dotted with wildflowers. A stream ran along one edge and oak trees provided shade. The view of the valley below was breathtaking. How did you find this place? Dahlia asked, dismounting with Warren's assistance. I stumbled upon it my first month in Murphy's. I was feeling particularly lost, and I just kept riding until I found myself here. Warren led the horses to the stream to drink. It has been my sanctuary ever since. A place to think and remember what matters. They walked through the meadow, and Warren pointed out different wildflowers, sharing what he had learned about them. He picked a cluster of lavender blooms and handed them to Dahlia with an almost shy smile. They are beautiful, she said, breathing in their sweet scent. Not as beautiful as you. Dahlia felt warmth flood her cheeks. Warren had never spoken so directly about her appearance before. You make me blush. Good, you are lovely when you blush. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Dahlia, these past weeks with you have been the happiest I have known in a very long time. I need you to know that. She set the flowers aside and took his hands in hers. I feel the same way. Being with you feels right in a way nothing else ever has. I do not have much to offer you. I am not a wealthy man, but I can promise you honesty and loyalty and a home where you will always be safe. Warren's voice was thick with emotion. I am falling in love with you, Dahlia. I have been fighting it because I did not want to pressure you, but I cannot keep it inside anymore. Tears sprang to Dahlia's eyes. I love you too. I think I have loved you since that first day when you caught me before I fell. You have been my anchor in the storm. Warren cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. Can I kiss you, please? She whispered. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. But Dahlia rose on her toes to meet him, and when their lips touched, it was like coming home. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but then Warren pulled her closer and deepened it, and Dahlia responded with equal passion. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. That was worth waiting for, Warren said, resting his forehead against hers. Dahlia laughed, giddy with joy. It certainly was. They spent the rest of the afternoon in the meadow, talking and kissing and making plans. Warren spoke of expanding his business, maybe hiring an assistant so he could have more time for other pursuits. Dahlia shared her dream of opening a school someday, teaching children who might not otherwise have access to education. "We could do it together," Warren said. "Build something lasting." "I would like that very much." As the sun began to set, they rode back to Murphy's, hands linked between their horses. Dahlia had never felt so full of hope and possibility. The trauma that had brought her here seemed distant now, transformed into something meaningful by the love she had found with Warren. That night, as she lay in her small room, Dahlia heard Warren moving about in the stable. Unable to sleep, she rose and went to find him. He was checking on a mare that was due to foal soon, speaking softly to the nervous animal. "Could not sleep either?" she asked from the doorway. Warren looked up, surprised. "Did I wake you?" "No, I was already awake, thinking about today." She moved to stand beside him, stroking the mare's neck. "About us. Good thoughts, I hope. The best." Dahlia leaned against his shoulder and Warren wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "I never imagined I could be this happy." "Neither did I." He kissed the top of her head. "Dahlia, I know we have not been courting long by traditional standards, but I am certain of my feelings. When you are ready, I want to marry you," her heart soared. "Are you proposing?" "Not yet. I want to do it properly with a ring and all the trimmings." Warren turned to face her fully. "But I needed you to know my intentions. I am not playing at this. I want a future with you." "I want that too," Dahlia said. "More than anything." They stood together in the quiet stable, the mare dozing beside them, and Dahlia marveled at how much her life had changed. She had come to Murphy's running from death and found instead a reason to truly live. The following weeks brought new challenges. In mid-September, word spread that the Murphy gang had struck again, robbing a mining payroll and killing 2 guards. Sheriff Benson increased patrols, but the outlaws seemed to vanish into the wilderness like ghosts. Warren grew more protective, insisting on walking Dahlia to and from work each day. She understood his concern but chafed at the restrictions. "I cannot live in fear forever," she told him one evening. "Eventually, I need to reclaim my independence." "I know. But until those men are caught, I need to know you are safe." Warren paced his small cabin, agitated. "They are still out there, Dahlia, and if they find out you survived, you are in danger." "So what do you suggest? That I hide for the rest of my life?" She stood, frustrated. "I am finally building something here. I have work I love, friends you. I refuse to let those men steal that from me." Warren stopped pacing and pulled her into his arms. "I am sorry. You are right. I am being overprotective." Dahlia softened, wrapping her arms around his waist. "You are being caring, which I love about you, but we need to find a balance." "We will," he promised. "Together." The next day, Sheriff Benson appeared at the dress shop with news. "We got a tip about the Murphy gang's hideout," he told Dahlia and Mrs. Patterson. "Planning to move on them tomorrow. Thought you should know." "Will you catch them?" Dahlia asked, hope rising in her chest. "If our information is good, yes, but these things can go wrong." The sheriff's expression was grave. "I am posting a deputy outside the shop today and at Warren's place tonight, just as a precaution." True to his word, a young deputy named Sam Rogers stationed himself outside Mrs. Patterson's shop. He was friendly and competent, which eased some of Dahlia's anxiety. When Warren came to walk her home that evening, the deputy accompanied them, his hand resting on his holstered pistol. That night, another deputy took up position in the stable yard. Warren was clearly unhappy with the situation but recognized its necessity. "I should have asked you to marry me already," he said as they sat together in his cabin after dinner. "Then at least you would be my wife, and I would have the legal right to protect you." Dahlia smiled despite the tension. "Is that the only reason you want to marry me? For legal protection?" "You know it is not." Warren took her hand. "I want to marry you because I love you more than I thought possible, because I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night, because the thought of a future without you is unbearable." "Then ask me," Dahlia said softly. Warren blinked. "Now, why not? We both know what we want, and if something happens tomorrow, I want to have this moment. I want to know we are promised to each other." She squeezed his hand. "Ask me, Warren." He stood, pulling her to her feet with him. For a moment, he seemed at a loss, then he dropped to one knee right there in his simple cabin. "Dahlia Vaughn, I do not have a ring yet, and this is not the romantic proposal I planned. But I am asking you now because you are right. Life is uncertain, and I do not want to waste another moment." His eyes were bright with emotion. "Will you marry me? Will you take a chance on a lonely cowboy who loves you more than words can say?" Tears streamed down Dahlia's face. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Warren stood and swept her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that left them both breathless. When they finally parted, both were laughing and crying at once. "I will get you a proper ring," Warren promised, "and we will have a real wedding if you want one." "I do not need any of that. I just need you." Dahlia cupped his face in her hands. "You are all I have ever needed." They stayed up late into the night, making plans and dreaming aloud. Warren spoke of building a proper house, something bigger than the cabin where they could raise a family. Dahlia talked about teaching their children to read, about creating a home filled with love and laughter. "How many children do you want?" Warren asked, toying with her fingers. "2 or 3, maybe. What about you?" "As many as the Lord sees fit to give us." He smiled. "Though I hope our first is a boy, someone to help me in the stable." "It could be a girl," Dahlia teased. "Would you be disappointed?" "Impossible. If she is anything like her mother, I will be thrilled." Warren kissed her hand. "Boy or girl, it does not matter. As long as they are healthy and you are safe." "Always so protective," Dahlia murmured, but she was touched by his concern. "I cannot help it. You are my heart now, Dahlia. What happens to you happens to me." The next morning dawned tense. Warren was up before sunrise, checking and rechecking the stable, his rifle close at hand. The deputy from the night before had been replaced by another officer, and Sheriff Benson stopped by briefly to update them. "We are riding out within the hour," he said. "Should be back by nightfall one way or another. Deputy Harris will stay here. Do not take any chances today." After the sheriff left, Warren insisted on escorting Dahlia to work despite the early hour. Mrs. Patterson was not yet at the shop, so they waited together outside, Warren's arm protectively around Dahlia's shoulders. "This will be over soon," she said, trying to reassure him, "and then we can focus on our future." "I pray you are right." Warren kissed her forehead. "Be careful today. Do not leave the shop for any reason." "I promise." She looked up at him. "And you be careful too. Those men could have been watching us. They might know where you live. Deputy Harris is there, and I can handle myself." Warren's jaw was set. "Nothing is going to keep me from marrying you, Dahlia." Nothing. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Mrs. Patterson noticed Dahlia's distraction and sent her to the back room to work on mending, a task that required less concentration. The deputy outside remained vigilant, and townspeople passed by with curious looks, clearly aware that something was happening. It was late afternoon when they heard the commotion. Horses thundering into town, men shouting. Dahlia and Mrs. Patterson rushed to the window to see Sheriff Benson and his men returning, several prisoners in custody. "They got them," Mrs. Patterson said, relief evident in her voice. "Thank the Lord." Dahlia's knees nearly gave out. It was over. The Murphy gang had been caught. Warren appeared at the shop shortly after, his expression jubilant. "Did you hear? We saw them ride in." Dahlia met him at the door. "Is it really over? All 5 of them are in custody. Cole Murphy is wounded but alive. They will stand trial." Warren pulled her into a fierce embrace, not caring who saw. "You are safe now, truly safe." Mrs. Patterson cleared her throat delicately. "I think you can take the rest of the day off, Dahlia. You have earned it." They walked back to Warren's property hand in hand, giddy with relief. The weight that had been pressing on them for weeks had finally lifted. As they entered the stable yard, Deputy Harris tipped his hat. "Heard the news. I will head back to town unless you need me to stay." "No, thank you for watching over the place," Warren said. "We are grateful." After the deputy left, Warren and Dahlia stood alone in the warm afternoon sun. He turned to her, his eyes shining. "I want to marry you as soon as possible," he said. "Tomorrow, if we can arrange it," Dahlia laughed. "Tomorrow seems ambitious, but soon, yes. I do not want to wait either." "Then we will talk to the preacher first thing in the morning." Warren picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. "You are going to be my wife, Dahlia Zimmerman." "I love the sound of that," she said when he set her down. "Mrs. Zimmerman." That evening, they celebrated their engagement with a simple meal, but it felt like a feast. Everything tasted better now that the shadow of danger had lifted. They talked late into the night about their wedding, deciding to keep it small and simple. Just the preacher, a few close friends, and their promises to each other. "I do not need a fancy dress or a big celebration," Dahlia said. "I just want to be your wife." "And I just want you," Warren replied. "Everything else is extra." The next morning they visited Reverend Thomas, who agreed to perform the ceremony the following Saturday. It gave them 5 days to prepare, which seemed both too long and not enough time. Mrs. Patterson insisted on making Dahlia a wedding dress, refusing any payment. "Consider it my gift to you both," she said. "Every bride deserves something special to wear." The other women in town rallied around as well, organizing a small reception at the church hall. Even people who had gossiped about Dahlia staying at Warren's place seemed genuinely happy for them now. "Love has a way of winning people over," Mrs. Patterson observed as she fitted Dahlia for her dress. "And anyone can see how much that man adores you." The week passed in a blur of preparations. Warren spent his evenings building new furniture for the cabin, determined to make it more comfortable for Dahlia. She helped when she could, and they worked side by side in companionable silence, occasionally stealing kisses. On Friday evening, the night before the wedding, Warren walked Dahlia back to her room in the stable for the last time. "Tomorrow night you will sleep under my roof as my wife," he said, holding her close. "I can hardly believe it is real." "It is real," Dahlia assured him. "And it is going to be wonderful." "I love you so much it frightens me sometimes," Warren admitted. "I never thought I would feel this way about anyone." "I love you too, and you do not need to be frightened. We are in this together, whatever comes." She kissed him softly. "Now go. We should not see each other again until the ceremony. It is tradition," Warren groaned. "I do not like that tradition." "Just one more night," Dahlia said with a smile. "Then I am yours forever." The next morning, Dahlia woke with butterflies in her stomach. Mrs. Patterson arrived early to help her dress, bringing flowers from her garden for a small bouquet. "You look beautiful," the older woman said, tears in her eyes as she adjusted Dahlia's veil. "Warren is a lucky man." The dress was simple but elegant, with lace sleeves and a fitted bodice. Mrs. Patterson had worked miracles in just a few days. Dahlia barely recognized herself in the small mirror. The ceremony was held at noon in the town church. It was a modest building with wooden pews and simple stained glass windows. As Dahlia walked down the aisle on the arm of Sheriff Benson, who had agreed to give her away, She saw Warren standing at the altar and her breath caught. He wore a new suit, his dark hair neatly combed, and the look on his face when he saw her was one of pure wonder. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. When she reached the altar, Sheriff Benson placed her hand in Warren's and stepped back. Warren squeezed her fingers gently, his smile tremulous. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen," he whispered. Reverend Thomas began the ceremony, his voice warm and reassuring. Dahlia heard the familiar words about love and commitment, about honoring and cherishing, and felt the rightness of this moment settle deep in her bones. When it came time for vows, Warren spoke first. "Dahlia, when you stumbled into my life, you changed everything. You taught me that it was possible to hope again, to love again. I promise to care for you, protect you, and love you for all of my days. You are my heart, my home, and my future." Dahlia's voice shook with emotion as she responded. "Warren, you saved my life in more ways than one. You showed me what true kindness looks like, what real love feels like. I promise to stand by your side through everything life brings us. I promise to love you with everything I am, now and always." Reverend Thomas smiled. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Warren, you may kiss your bride." Warren cupped Dahlia's face in his hands and kissed her tenderly while their friends applauded. When they pulled apart, both were beaming as they walked back down the aisle as Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerman. Dahlia felt like she was floating. The reception at the church hall was simple but joyful, with food and music and dancing. Warren held her close for their first dance, swaying to a fiddle tune. "How does it feel to be married?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. "Perfect," Dahlia replied. "Absolutely perfect." Later, as the sun began to set, they said their goodbyes and returned to Warren's cabin, their cabin now. He carried her over the threshold, and they stood together in the small space that would be their first home. "Welcome home, Mrs. Zimmerman," Warren said, setting her down gently. Dahlia looked around at the familiar space, now transformed by Warren's efforts. He had built a larger bed, new shelves, and even a rocking chair. "You did all this for me, for us," he corrected. "This is just the beginning. We will build a whole life together." That night, they consummated their marriage with tenderness and passion, learning each other in the most intimate way. Afterward, lying in Warren's arms, Dahlia felt a peace she had never known. "I wish my parents could have met you," she said softly. "They would have loved you," Warren kissed her hair. "I wish I could have met them too. They raised an extraordinary woman." "Tell me about your family," Dahlia requested. "Your mother, your father. What were they like?" Warren was quiet for a moment, then began to speak. "My mother was gentle but strong. She could calm any situation with a few words. My father was a farmer, proud and stubborn. He taught me about honest work and keeping your word." His voice grew rough. "My brother James was my best friend. We were only a year apart, did everything together growing up. His death nearly destroyed me." Dahlia held him tighter. "I am so sorry you lost them, but I think they would be proud of the man you have become." "I hope so," Warren murmured. "I hope they can see how happy I am with you." The months that followed were the happiest either of them had known. Dahlia continued working at the dress shop while Warren expanded his farrier business. They saved every penny they could toward building a proper house. In November, the trial of the Murphy gang took place. Dahlia had to testify, which was difficult, but Warren sat in the courtroom every day, his presence giving her strength. All 5 men were found guilty. Cole Murphy and 2 others were sentenced to hang, while the remaining 2 received long prison sentences. When it was over, Dahlia felt as though she could finally close that chapter of her life completely. The men who had haunted her nightmares would pay for their crimes, and she could focus entirely on her future with Warren. Christmas came. their first as a married couple. They exchanged simple gifts, Warren giving Dahlia a beautiful leather-bound journal and Dahlia presenting him with a thick wool coat she had sewn herself. They spent the day quietly together, cooking a modest feast and talking about their dreams. "I think we will have enough saved by spring to start on the house," Warren said as they lay by the fireplace. "Nothing grand but solid. 2 stories with a real kitchen for you. And a stable nearby for you," Dahlia added. "Maybe a little garden plot. Anything you want," Warren promised. "I want to give you the world." "You already have," she assured him. "You gave me yourself, and that is more than enough." In February, Dahlia began feeling ill in the mornings. At first, she thought it was something she ate, but when the nausea continued for several weeks, Mrs. Patterson pulled her aside. "Girl, when was your last monthly?" The older woman asked bluntly. Dahlia thought back and realized with a start that she had missed not 1 but 2 cycles. "Oh my goodness," she whispered. "You are with child, I would wager," Mrs. Patterson said with a knowing smile. "You should see Doc Henderson to be sure." That evening, Dahlia told Warren her suspicions over dinner. His fork clattered to his plate. "A baby." His voice was barely above a whisper. "We are going to have a baby. I need to see the doctor to confirm, but I think so." Dahlia watched his face anxiously, unsure of his reaction. Suddenly, Warren was up and around the table, pulling her into his arms. "A baby," he repeated, his voice full of wonder. "Dahlia, you have made me the happiest man alive." Doc Henderson confirmed the pregnancy a few days later. Dahlia was about 2 months along, which meant the baby would arrive in late summer or early fall. Warren became even more protective if that was possible. He insisted Dahlia rest more, take fewer shifts at the shop. Mrs. Patterson was understanding, adjusting Dahlia's hours and giving her tasks that did not require standing for long periods. "You need to stop hovering," Dahlia told Warren one evening, exasperated but amused. "I am pregnant, not made of glass." I know," Warren said sheepishly. "I just worry." "Well, try to worry less and enjoy this more," Dahlia said, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat stomach. "We are having a baby, Warren. That is a miracle." He left his hand there, a look of awe on his face. "Our baby," he said softly. "Half you, half me." "How did I get so lucky?" In March, they broke ground on their new house. Warren hired 2 local men to help with the construction, and work progressed quickly. Dahlia visited the site daily, watching their dream take shape. It was larger than the cabin, with 2 bedrooms upstairs and a spacious main floor with separate kitchen and living areas. "This room will be the nursery," Warren said, standing in what would be the smaller bedroom. "We can paint it yellow, something bright and cheerful." Dahlia leaned against him, imagining their child sleeping here. "It is going to be perfect." By May, the house was nearly complete. They moved in on a warm Saturday with help from friends. The furniture from the cabin looked sparse in the larger space, but they would acquire more over time. What mattered was that they had a real home now, built with their own hands and resources. As summer approached, Dahlia's pregnancy became obvious. She felt the baby move for the first time in late June, a fluttering sensation that made her gasp with delight. Warren pressed his ear to her rounded belly every night, hoping to hear or feel something, and his patience was rewarded when the baby kicked strongly against his palm. "He is going to be a strong one," Warren said proudly. "Or she," Dahlia reminded him. "You keep assuming it is a boy." "Boy or girl, I will love them exactly the same," Warren promised. "Though I admit I have been imagining teaching a son to shoe horses." "You can teach a daughter that too," Dahlia pointed out. "Skills are not limited by gender," Warren laughed. "Fair point. You would know, with your own determination and capability." In August, Doc Henderson examined Dahlia and pronounced her healthy and progressing well. "Baby should come sometime in the next few weeks," he said. "Make sure you have everything ready." They had already prepared the nursery with a cradle Warren had built himself, carefully carved and sanded smooth. Dahlia had sewn tiny gowns and blankets, folding them neatly in a chest. Everything was as ready as it could be. On a hot afternoon in late August, Dahlia felt the first contractions. She was in the garden, picking tomatoes when the pain seized her. She straightened slowly, one hand on her back. "Warren," she called, trying to keep her voice calm. He appeared from the stable, took one look at her face, and went pale. "Is it time?" "I think so." Another contraction gripped her, stronger this time. "You should get Doc Henderson." Warren got her settled in their bedroom first, then rode into town like the devil was chasing him. He returned with the doctor in record time, along with Mrs. Patterson, who had experience with births. The labor was long and difficult. Dahlia labored through the afternoon and into the evening, Warren by her side the entire time, holding her hand and whispering encouragement. When she screamed with pain, he looked nearly as anguished as she felt. "You are doing wonderfully," Doc Henderson assured her. "Not much longer now." Finally, as the sun was setting, their baby entered the world with a robust cry. Doc Henderson held up the squalling infant. "It is a boy," he announced, "healthy and strong." Warren stared at his son, tears streaming down his face. "He is perfect," he whispered. Mrs. Patterson cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft blanket before placing him in Dahlia's arms. She looked down at the tiny face, the scrunched features and dark hair, and felt love unlike anything she had ever experienced. "Hello, little one," she murmured. "We have been waiting for you." Warren sat beside them on the bed, one arm around Dahlia and one finger gently held by his son's tiny fist. What should we name him? They had discussed names but never settled on one. Dahlia thought for a moment, then said, "William, after my father. William James for your brother too." Warren's breath hitched. "Are you sure?" "I am sure. William James Zimmerman." She looked up at her husband. "Does that suit you?" "It is perfect," Warren said, kissing her forehead. "Just like you, just like him. Everything is perfect." Doc Henderson and Mrs. Patterson left them alone with their new son. The three of them sat together in the gathering darkness, a new family, complete and whole. The next weeks were exhausting but joyful. William was a good baby, though he kept them up at night with his demands to be fed. Warren proved to be a doting father, walking the floor with his son when Dahlia needed rest, changing soiled cloths without complaint, and staring at the baby with unending wonder. "I never knew I could love something this much," he said one night, holding William against his chest. "Well, besides you," Dahlia smiled tiredly. "He is pretty amazing, is not he? He is a miracle." Warren looked at her with such tenderness it made her throat tight. "You are a miracle. I cannot believe this is my life now." As autumn painted the hills gold and red, their life settled into a new rhythm. Dahlia reduced her hours at the dress shop even further, working just 2 days a week so she could focus on William. Warren hired an assistant for the stable, a young man named Peter who was eager to learn the trade. On a cool October evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Dahlia reflected on how far she had come. Just over a year ago, she had stumbled into this town bleeding and desperate, with nothing to her name. "What are you thinking about?" Warren asked, William sleeping peacefully in his arms. "About how much can change in a year," Dahlia replied. "This time last year I never could have imagined this, any of this." "Me neither." Warren shifted William carefully, then reached for Dahlia's hand. "You said once that you could not pay me back for helping you. Do you remember?" "Of course. You told me to just let you love me." The memory was crystal clear. "I want you to know something." Warren said seriously. "You have given me far more than I ever gave you. You gave me a purpose, a reason to hope, a family. You took a lonely cowboy and made him whole." Dahlia leaned her head on his shoulder. "We made each other whole. That is what love does." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from gold to purple to deep blue. William stirred and made a small sound, and they both smiled. "You think we could handle another one someday?" Warren asked tentatively. "Another baby, maybe," Dahlia said. "Though let me recover from this one first." Warren chuckled. "Fair enough, I am in no rush. I am just enjoying what we have right now." As winter approached, their first Christmas as a family of 3 was special beyond words. William was 3 months old, starting to smile and coo. Warren carved him a wooden rattle, and Dahlia sewed him a warm winter suit. On Christmas morning, they dressed William in his new clothes and took him to church. Reverend Thomas blessed him in front of the congregation, and their friends gathered around afterward to admire how much he had grown. "He looks just like his father," Mrs. Patterson observed. "But he has his mother's eyes," Warren said proudly. That afternoon, as they sat by the fire in their warm home, Dahlia felt profoundly grateful. Her parents would have loved to see this, to meet their grandson and see their daughter so happy. Though they were gone, she felt their presence in the traditions she carried forward, in the love she poured into her family. "Tell William about his grandparents," Warren suggested. "Tell him about your mother and father so he knows where he comes from." So Dahlia told their son stories, even though he was too young to understand. She spoke of her mother's kindness and her father's strength, of the home they had made and the love they had shared. Warren listened, adding his own memories of his family, weaving their histories together. The seasons turned, and William grew. By his first birthday in late August, he was walking and babbling constantly. Warren taught him about horses, holding him up to pet their gentle noses. Dahlia read to him every night just as her father had read to her. One evening in September, as they celebrated their second wedding anniversary, Warren presented Dahlia with a small box. "What is this?" she asked, surprised. They had agreed not to exchange gifts beyond a special meal. "Open it," Warren urged. Inside was a delicate gold locket. Dahlia opened it to find 2 tiny photographs, one of Warren and one of herself, recently taken by the traveling photographer who had visited Murphy's. "Warren, this is beautiful," she breathed. "I wanted you to have something that showed we are connected," he said. "Always." "We will always be connected," Dahlia assured him. "You are my heart, Warren Zimmerman. Today, tomorrow, forever." He kissed her deeply, and William, sitting on the floor with his toys, clapped his hands and laughed. The years continued to pass, each one bringing new joys and challenges. When William was 3, Dahlia found herself pregnant again. Their daughter, Emma Grace, was born in the spring of 1876, a tiny thing with Dahlia's features and Warren's dark hair. William was fascinated by his baby sister, insisting on helping with everything. Warren built an addition to the house, another bedroom so the children would not have to share as they grew older. Business thrived. Warren's reputation as a skilled farrier spread throughout the region, bringing customers from surrounding towns. Dahlia eventually gave up working at the dress shop to focus on raising their children, but she took in sewing projects from home. When William turned 6, Dahlia began teaching him to read, starting the homeschooling she had always dreamed of providing. Emma, still small, sat nearby coloring while her brother sounded out words. "You are a natural teacher," Warren observed one afternoon, watching his wife guide their son through a lesson. "The children are lucky to have you." "They are lucky to have both of us," Dahlia corrected. "You teach them just as much as I do, just in different ways." It was true. Warren taught William about responsibility through caring for animals, about craftsmanship through his work in the stable, about integrity through his honest dealings with customers. Emma, though younger, learned by watching her father's gentle patience and genuine kindness. One evening in the summer of 1879, as they sat on their porch watching William and Emma chase fireflies in the yard, Warren pulled Dahlia close. "You ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Staying here instead of going to San Francisco, building this simple life instead of having adventures?" Dahlia looked at him in surprise. "Never, not for a single moment. This is the adventure I was meant to have. You are the adventure." "I think about that day you came to town sometimes," Warren admitted. "How close I came to not being there, to missing you entirely. I had planned to work in the barn that morning, but something made me go into town early." "Fate," Dahlia said simply. "We were meant to find each other." "I believe that," Warren agreed. "You saved me just as much as I saved you, maybe more." "We saved each other," Dahlia said. "That is what love does." William ran up to them then, holding a jar with several fireflies inside. "Look, Papa, I caught 5." "That is impressive," Warren said, ruffling his son's hair. "But you need to let them go before bedtime, remember. They need to be free." "I know," William said seriously. "I just wanted to watch them for a little while." Emma toddled over, her own jar clutched in chubby hands. "I got 2." "You sure did, sweetheart," Dahlia said, pulling her daughter onto her lap. "You are very good at catching fireflies." As darkness fell and the children reluctantly released their catches, the family went inside. Warren carried a sleepy Emma while William held Dahlia's hand, chattering about what he wanted to do the next day. After the children were tucked into bed, their prayers said, and goodnight kisses given, Warren and Dahlia returned to the porch. The night was warm and clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. "I want to give you something," Warren said, pulling a folded paper from his pocket. "I have been working on this for a while." Dahlia unfolded it to find a deed. "What is this?" "I bought the land adjacent to ours, 5 acres to the west. I thought maybe we could build that school you always dreamed about, not right away, but in a few years when Emma is older." Warren watched her face anxiously. "What do you think?" Tears sprang to Dahlia's eyes. "You remembered. After all this time, you remembered that dream." "I remember everything you have ever told me," Warren said. "Every hope, every dream, every fear, and I want to help you achieve them all." Dahlia threw her arms around him. "You are the most wonderful man. How did I get so lucky?" "I am the lucky one," Warren insisted, holding her tight. "Every single day, I thank God you walked into my life." They stood together under the stars, 2 people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and built something beautiful from their shared pain and hope. The school became a reality in 1882. With Warren's help and support from the community, Dahlia opened a small schoolhouse on their property. She started with just 8 students, including William, who was now 10, and Emma, who was 6. But word spread about the quality of education she provided, and within a year, she had 15 students of varying ages. Warren built desks and slates, donated supplies, and took pride in telling everyone about his wife, the teacher. He still ran his farrier business, now with 2 assistants, and the Zimmerman family became well-respected pillars of the community. In 1884, Dahlia became pregnant again, much to everyone's surprise. She was 33 now, and they had thought their family was complete. But baby Samuel arrived healthy and strong that winter, a late blessing who completed their family in a way they had not known they needed. William, now 12, and Emma, 8, doted on their baby brother. Warren, at 41, was as energetic and devoted a father as he had been with his first child. 3 children, he said one night, watching Dahlia nurse Samuel. "We have been blessed beyond measure." "We have," Dahlia agreed. Sometimes I think back to that day I arrived in Murphy's, how desperate and lost I felt. If someone had told me then that this would be my life, I never would have believed them. That scared girl became an incredible woman, Warren said. Though I think you were always this strong. You just needed the chance to show it. The years continued their steady march. William grew into a thoughtful young man who decided to become a teacher like his mother. Emma showed artistic talent, spending hours drawing and painting. Young Samuel, meanwhile, followed his father everywhere, clearly destined to carry on the farrier trade. On their 20th wedding anniversary in 1894, Warren and Dahlia renewed their vows in the same church where they had married. Their 3 children stood with them, William now a handsome young man of 20, Emma a beautiful young woman of 16, and Samuel an energetic boy of 10. 20 years ago I made promises to you, Warren said, holding Dahlia's hands. Promises to love and honor and cherish you. Today, I renew those promises, and I thank God for every day He has given us together. Dahlia, her hair now streaked with silver but her eyes still bright, smiled through tears. You have kept every promise, Warren. You have given me a life beyond my wildest dreams. You have been my partner, my love, my home. I promise to love you for however many years we have left, and then beyond that, into eternity. Reverend Thomas, older now but still presiding over the church, blessed them again. Their friends and neighbors, many of whom had been at their original wedding, applauded. It was a day of celebration and reflection, of looking back on all they had built together. That evening, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset, their children inside preparing dinner together, Warren took Dahlia's hand. 20 years, he said wonderingly. It feels like both forever and no time at all. I know exactly what you mean, Dahlia replied. I can still remember that first day so clearly, how you caught me before I fell. I knew even then, in some deep part of me, that you were important. I thought you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, even covered in dust and blood, Warren admitted. And then you opened your eyes and looked at me and I was lost. Found, not lost, Dahlia corrected gently. We found each other. Warren lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it tenderly. You are still the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. More beautiful now than then, because I know you so deeply. I know your strength, your compassion, your fierce love for our children. I know the sound of your laugh and the feel of your hand in mine. I know you, Dahlia, and loving you has been the greatest privilege of my life. As loving you has been mine, Dahlia said softly. You took a woman who had nothing and made her feel like she had everything, not through wealth or possessions, but through your steady, unwavering love. You taught me what it meant to be truly seen, truly valued, truly cherished. They sat in silence as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. Inside, they could hear their children laughing, the sounds of a family comfortable with each other. The school building stood nearby, fulfillment of one dream. The stable, expanded over the years, represented Warren's success and passion. The house they had built together sheltered all they held dear. What do you think the next 20 years will bring? Warren wondered aloud. Grandchildren, I hope, Dahlia said with a smile. William is courting that nice girl from town, Sarah. And Emma has had several young men come calling, though she is in no rush to settle down. And Samuel will probably bring home stray animals and broken things to fix, Warren added with a chuckle. Whatever it brings, we will face it together, Dahlia said firmly. That is what we have always done. That is what we will always do. Warren pulled her close and she rested her head on his shoulder. Together, he agreed. Always together. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, William called them in for dinner. Warren and Dahlia rose, hands still linked, and walked into their warm, light-filled home. The table was set, their children waiting, dinner ready. It was a simple moment, an ordinary evening, but it was everything they had ever wanted. "Thank you," Dahlia whispered to Warren as they took their seats. "For what?" he asked. "For being there that day, for catching me, for loving me." She looked around the table at their children, at the life they had created. "For all of this." Warren squeezed her hand under the table. "Thank you for saying yes, for taking a chance on a lonely cowboy, for building this life with me." "I would choose you again," Dahlia said. "Every single time, in every possible life, I would choose you." "And I would choose you," Warren replied. "Now and always." They blessed their food and began to eat, the conversation flowing naturally among them. William talked about his plans to open a second school in the next town over. Emma showed them sketches for a new painting. Samuel begged to be allowed to help shoe the big draft horse that was coming tomorrow. Warren and Dahlia listened and contributed, as they always did. But underneath it all was a quiet sense of completion. They had taken their pain and transformed it into purpose. They had taken their loneliness and created community. They had taken a chance encounter on a dusty street and turned it into a lifetime of love. Later that night, lying in bed together after the house had grown quiet, Warren held Dahlia close. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I love you too," she replied, her hand over his heart. "Forever and always." "Forever and always," Warren echoed. And in that moment, in that house they had built, surrounded by the family they had created, with a lifetime of memories behind them and however many years remained ahead, they were completely, perfectly happy. The years continued to be kind to the Zimmerman family. William married his Sarah in 1896, and their first child, a daughter they named Dahlia after her grandmother, was born the following year. The sight of Warren holding his granddaughter, tears streaming down his face, was something Dahlia would treasure forever. Emma eventually fell in love with a traveling artist who settled in Murphy's to be near her. They married in 1898 and opened a small gallery in town, bringing culture and beauty to the community. Samuel, as predicted, took over his father's business, working alongside Warren daily and learning everything his father could teach him. As the new century approached, Warren and Dahlia found themselves at peace. They had lived through tremendous change, seen California grow and develop, watched their children become capable adults. Their love had weathered every storm and emerged stronger. On New Year's Eve 1899, as the 19th century prepared to give way to the 20th, the entire Zimmerman family gathered at the house. William and Sarah with little Dahlia, Emma and her husband Thomas, Samuel with the young woman he was courting. The house rang with laughter and conversation. As midnight approached, Warren pulled Dahlia outside under the stars. "A new century," he said. "Can you believe it?" "Barely," Dahlia admitted. "So much has changed, and yet some things remain constant, like us," Warren said, pulling her into his arms. "Like us," she agreed. They kissed as the clock struck midnight, as fireworks lit up the sky over Murphy's, as their family cheered inside. It was a kiss that held decades of love, of partnership, of choosing each other every single day. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "Here is to the new century," Warren said. "May it be as kind to our children as the last one was to us." "To the new century," Dahlia echoed, "and to us, still together after all these years." "Always together," Warren promised. "That is how it was always meant to be." They stood wrapped in each other's arms, listening to their family inside, feeling the cool night air on their faces, and knowing that whatever the future held, they would face it side by side. They had built something lasting, something beautiful, something worth every hardship they had endured to find each other. The lonely cowboy and the desperate woman who had stumbled into his life had become so much more than they ever dreamed possible. They had become partners, parents, grandparents, and pillars of their community. But most importantly, they had become each other's home, each other's safe harbor, each other's greatest love. And that, in the end, was the truest measure of their success. Not the house, or the business, or the school, but the love they shared and the family they had created. A love that had started with a simple act of kindness and grown into something extraordinary. A love that had transformed two broken people into something whole. As they walked back inside to rejoin their family, Warren's arm around Dahlia's waist and her head on his shoulder, they knew that their story was one for the ages. A reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures come from the most unexpected places, and that love, real love, can heal even the deepest wounds. They had found each other against all odds, chosen each other despite every obstacle, and built a life that neither could have imagined alone. And they would continue that life together, for however many years remained, growing old side by side, their hands still linked, their hearts still one. It was, in every sense, a happily ever after. Not because their life had been perfect or easy, but because they had faced it together, choosing love every day. And in that choice, in that commitment, they had found everything they had ever needed. The end.